Debbie Mack here, and I'm going to talk today a little about the writing process. There's an old saying, I think it was Somerset Maugham who said, "There are 3 rules for writing a novel. Unfortunately, nobody knows what they are." And nothing could be more true. There really aren't any rules as such. However, it's a good idea to have an idea what your story arc is before you start writing. At least it is for me. I'm what's known as a plotter, as opposed to a pantser. A pantser is a person who likes to just sit down and write and see where the story goes. I prefer to have a kind of roadmap for where I think the story will go and deviate it from it as necessary. And as you can see, I do this using a very fancy system, which I'll show you right now. Now, those little cards, which are technically known as index cards, show you the plot, and I'm able to write down each scene and move them around as needed in order to create the story. And it involves a series of conflicts and resolutions, because a good story requires a certain amount of conflict between characters. There's a protagonist and, of course, an antagonist. And ultimately, when you have that plotted out, you can eventually fill in the rest by simply writing the story. Yeah, simple as that, right? In any case, as you can see from the cards, some of them are different colors. And I use that to indicate where I've put in significant characters or significant plot points. And I'm actually switching to a system now where I write all of this down ahead of time in terms of, not like an outline as such, but more like a series of scenes, and then create a chart like this. It's sort of a grid. Here you have the characters, and here you have each scene, and where the characters interact with the protagonist who's on the left. So that's the way I'm kind of going now. And maybe what I'll do is put in a little timeline to the left of the protagonist so I can keep track of how much time is passing during the story, which could take place over days, weeks, or even hours, depending on the kind of story you're writing. So I think that will do it for today. At some point, I'm thinking about teaching a course on plotting specifically, and I'll have to think about how I would do that, because there are fancier ways using computer techniques to set up your plot. But once you do that, it's just a matter of writing all that other stuff that is the story in between each plot point. Simple, right? Not really. Okay, that's all for today, and thanks for watching.